panel. He is the RNC Youth and Advisory Council co-chair and the author of a new book. It is called One Generation Away, Brilyn Hollyhand. And also joining us, author of 11 different books on history, presidential history as well, including his latest book, The Search for Reagan. Presidential historian Craig Shirley. Gentlemen, great to have you both with us.
Thank you, Bianca.
Thank you, Bianca.
I pulled that clip, Are You Better Off 4 years ago, but James just included it in his piece. But it really is so emblematic of what could be asked today, Craig, and tonight of Joe Biden. And frankly, I don't know how anyone answers yes.
I don't see how anyone answers yes. It should be asked just as it was in 1980, because it's the essential question of what type of presidency he's had. Either he's had a successful presidency or he's had a failure. Is that this should be a referendum on his presidency and nothing more. I hope Trump hones in on that, hones in on the facts, hones in on the failures of the myriad failures of the Biden administration, and that's where the debate should be centered.
You know, Brilyn, I know you weren't probably born in 1980. I know you weren't, but you know, the youth vote's very important. My daughter will be voting for the first time in a presidential election, and the prosperity for young people is bleak, and that's really what's been robbed, I think. Tell me some of the topics when you go out and you speak to younger people. Mike Carter was interviewing some of the college students in Atlanta. One says, I'm not even going to watch today. That is sad to me, to think they're so tuned out. How do you re-engage young voters to come to the table here and really listen and understand their future is at stake just as well?
Absolutely, Bianca. To answer your question about if we're better off than we were 4 years ago, you have to look no further. In the previous breaking news segment, I mean, here we go again. Another young person, this time in upstate New York, killed by an illegal, let in by Joe Biden. The blood of my peers being brutally murdered by illegals is on the hands of none other than Joe Biden. And my generation is going to remember that in November. You see, my peers are going to be watching this debate tonight, and they know that it's a 3-on-1 debate, Bianca. My generation sees through the sham. The fact that the DNC is even letting Biden come out of the basement and debate shows that they're terrified of his poll numbers. And speaking of poll numbers, as you say, President Trump is actually breaking the mold. He's winning the youth vote by huge margins, and Joe Biden's terrified. We're going to see that tonight.
Well, we're watching live pictures here, Joint Base Andrews. It looks like Joe Biden is about to be arriving. What do you think 7 days at Camp David did? I mean, in some ways, Craig, okay, fine. He's gotten rest. They've done whatever to prep him. But the fact that he wants to be back in the White House, the world is on fire, and he needed this much time to repair, I mean, right then and there tells it all.
It speaks very ill of his presidency, Bianca. The preparation of the two candidates is very interesting, and I think sums up well their governing philosophies and their philosophies of their parties. Biden's preparation was insular, elitist, anti-intellectual, data-driven, no outreach whatsoever. Whereas Trump's was talking to people, getting their opinions, reaching out to people, drawing sustenance from people, very populist versus very elitist. And I think that will serve Trump well tonight.
I think it will, too. But obviously the moderators are a factor in all of this. Brilyn, yes. You're young. A lot of folks, some of the younger kids have been indoctrinated in college. We see the anti-Semitism on campus. How you weren't affected by any of this, but some of the young people really, it's hard to understand what they're thinking these days politically.
Oh, it's absolutely difficult. And it's even more difficult when you have the current commander-in-chief hiding in his basement and not reaching out to my generation, not reaching out to my peers. If the Biden campaign's wondering why he's failing in the youth polls, look no further than him hiding in the basement. Instead, Trump's actual debate prep was reaching out to my generation, going to youth conferences, reaching out to us even through social media on TikTok. We had a news out this morning saying that Trump has the fastest growing political account in TikTok history because, again, he's spending his time reaching out directly to my peers as first-time voters as opposed to hiding in a basement. So that's the parallel that we're seeing, a president that actually cares for my generation and a president that's going to go hide away for 7 days. And my generation realizes that.
Craig, what will you be looking for with Biden tonight? Obviously, people say, well, if he does like what he did at the State of the Union, the bar is so low. It's like if Biden can stand up for 90 minutes, if he can put together, 90% of his sentences, it's incredible, truly incredible as we look here. But we'll be watching, him walk and see how his gait is. But his bar is so low compared to Donald Trump's, Craig.
Yeah. His bar is so low he might trip over it. Is that I worry about the one aspect of this debate is I worry about is the expectations game, because all Biden has to do is show up and not drool. He might be declared the winner. I know the elites are going to be declaring him the winner anyway, but we want a solid win. Is that the expectations are, because Donald Trump is a good debater. He's a very good speechifier. But the expectation game is such that his expectations are a little bit higher than they should be, whereas Joe Biden's are lower than they should be.
Yes, and Joe Biden has had issues walking upstairs when it comes to Air Force One. They use the shorter stairs. There's been stories about him having to wear different shoes, to have Secret Service around him, concerns about that. I mean, at some point, too, they look at someone like Jill Biden and say it's part of, she knows that her husband may have mental, cognitive issues, and she's still putting them out there. And that's, a big issue for the family there, that they're doing that. Brilyn is a young person who obviously is in very good health. You look at these leaders here, maybe it's not so much about age, many say, but it is about the mental sharpness. And what would you say to young voters, maybe undecided in those battleground states, which we know will be deciding this election, and they're looking at both of these men and they're saying, well, they're both certain ages, and they've maybe drunk the Kool-Aid or listened to too much MSDNC?
Oh, well, you're exactly right, Bianca. I mean, let's just take a moment to acknowledge this. It's a sad state of affairs when the American people are tuning in tonight just to see how bad Biden blunders, as opposed to what real policies are being discussed. That's the America that we live in today, where he's the laughingstock of not only this country, but the world. And again, my generation sees that. We're going to remember that in November, and that's what we'll be watching for tonight. But again, the bar is so low, he might just trip over it.
Yeah. We're watching right now, trying to get a closer look here. We'll bring it up full. But Craig, I mean, as someone who has covered presidential historian of Reagan, we look to leaders. We look for their inspiration in tough times. We look to their comments. We've seen Joe Biden, whether it be, gaffes at state dinners, talking about stealing state secrets with, India's Prime Minister Modi, whether he's falling asleep there with Israel's president, laughing as he's walked away when they're asking him about lawfare against Trump. I mean, all of these moments here cemented in many people's eyes, many voters' eyes. Tonight, a lot of things will be cemented as well, as we're going to watch Joe Biden right now exit the stairs here. What can the Democrats do? We know they're concerned, as they well should be here, as he's walking off again. Let's see how he walks after all this rest.
Yeah, made it.
Oh, very, very good. Very good.
We know Democrats have been very concerned about this, privately. They're saying tonight he shouldn't even talk about his record. Some of the recent sources are saying he can't talk about his record. So will he try to get Donald Trump to react? Here he is, a wave, walking somewhat little stiff here. Gingerly's used a lot here. He knows what's at stake, though, Craig, and it's more than just getting back the White House. It could be also things with his family and alleged influence peddling. There's got to be a lot on Joe Biden's mind.
That is, Bianca, that is so important, because people need to understand this whole establishment behind Joe Biden. It's not just Joe Biden himself. It's his political establishment. It's his family. There's a lot of people who have jobs and security and income at stake here, and they want to hold on to those things. If I could go back just quickly to you about the youth vote, is that, first of all, is that Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, you said what they need to do to change things. They need to change their policies, but they're not going to do that. The two most successful presidents with young voters were John Kennedy, the youngest president ever, and Ronald Reagan, the oldest president ever. But they were successful because they talked about the future. No young person wants to know a future of limited resources and limited opportunity and sky-high inflation and gasoline shortages and things like that.
The American dream.
They want to hear about the American dream.
Yeah, right.
And that's what Donald Trump is talking about, and Joe Biden is not.
Joe Biden has just walked up the stairs here to Air Force One, and there was no stumble. We're glad. We don't want to see him stumble, but he is en route to probably one of the biggest nights of his political career. Craig Shirley, Brilyn Hollyhand, I appreciate you both. Such incredible perspective today on Debate Day. Thank you so much.
You bet, Bianca.
Thanks for having us, Bianca. Happy Debate Day.
Take good care, gentlemen. We're going to take a quick break. We're back with more Newsline after this.